Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Anna Braun.
Here.
Timothy Cummings. Antonella Vola.
Here.
Jamie Falco.
Here.
Louis Figueroa.
Here.
Lori Herrick. Lee Woo Hung.
Here.
Wilbur Pan.
Here.
Mary Ann Tanius.
Here, we have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the East Brunswick Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices located at 760 Route 18, East Brunswick, New Jersey. Written notice was also provided to the Sentinel, the Newark Star-Ledger, the Home News Tribune, the Alternative Press of East Brunswick, and the Municipal Clerk of East Brunswick. All Board of Education meetings, with the exception of executive session discussions, are videotaped for later broadcast. It is the policy of the Board of Education that videotaped meetings are not edited for any purpose. Individuals who speak at the board's public meetings should be aware of these videotaping rules. Okay, we have need for a closed session. Whereas the Board of Education must discuss matters which are not appropriate for discussion in a public meeting, and whereas these subjects are within the exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act and are permitted to be discussed in closed session pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12B, and whereas the Board of Education intends to discuss matters as outlined in the agenda, whereas the length of the closed session is estimated to be 1 hour, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and action will be taken. Now therefore be it resolved that the East Brunswick Board of Education will recess into closed session for only the aforesaid subjects, and be it further resolved that the East Brunswick Board of Ed hereby declares that its discussion of the aforesaid subjects will be made public at a time when the public's interest in disclosure is greater than any privacy or governmental interest being protected from disclosure in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Do we have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We are in closed. All right. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We are back from closed. Before we begin, Mrs. Herrick extends her apologies for not being able to be with us tonight. And we are going to jump right into our superintendent's report.
Good evening. Tonight's boardroom features artwork created by our talented students from Bound and Frost Elementary Schools. The artwork will be available for viewing through April 10th. The art teachers of these talented students are Brooke Sorbonne and Julia Komosinski. Dr. Nairi Delgado is the principal of Frost, and Miss Christine Gristina is the principal of Bound Monroe. On Thursday, February 26th, I had the pleasure of joining Frost Elementary for their annual multicultural celebration. This vibrant event served as the grand finale to a month-long exploration of the diverse cultures that shape their school. Thanks to the collaborative spirit of the students, parents, and faculty, the Frost family came together to truly learn from experience and celebrate their rich community heritage. It was a lot of fun. Lots of food, too. Earlier this month, our elementary schools came alive with the magic of storytelling for Read Across America. I had the pleasure of visiting classrooms at both Central and Chittick, and there's truly nothing like the energy of a room full of engaged young readers. Board members also had the opportunity to read to students at Central. It was so much fun. I read The Big Cheese to Mrs. Kelly's kids. Seeing their eyes light up as we turned each page reminded me why fostering a love for literacy is the greatest gift we can give our students. Thank you to the teachers and staff for such a warm welcome. On March 4th, we get around. On March 4th, along with board members, I attended the National Honor Society induction at the high school. The high school chapter of the National Honor Society inducted 114 new members. The ceremony centered on the 4 core values of the society. They are scholarship, service, leadership, and character. And then after the National Honor Society, I enjoyed attending the Hammersholt Drama Club production of Willy Wonka Kids. That was so good. Their hard work, imagination, and collaboration transformed the stage into a world of pure imagination. I wrapped up my final meet and greet at East Brunswick High School on Thursday, March 5th. Over the coming weeks, I look forward to sharing a summary of the community's feedback and our next steps. And then, following the meet and greet, I attended the EBEF Student Association volleyball game. I was thoroughly impressed by the students' organizational skills and their ability to execute such an engaging and successful event. We just sat there and enjoyed the show. It was so well run. I was really proud of our students. On Monday, March 9th, I attended the NJASA Women Leadership Conference, where our own Bella Voce Ensemble delivered a standout performance that left a lasting impression on the audience. And coincidentally, one of the keynote speakers is an EB graduate, Bonnie Taylor. So I took a picture. It was like a whole EB reunion. It was very nice. On Wednesday, March 11th, visual arts students from Churchill Junior High School and East Brunswick High School showcased their talents at the Middlesex County Teen Arts Festival at Middlesex College. Students had the opportunity to have their artwork individually adjudicated by professional artists and participate in a variety of visual art workshops led by working professionals. We are proud to announce that 5 East Brunswick students were selected to advance to the State Teen Arts Festival, where their work will be showcased in June. On Thursday, March 12th, Churchill Junior High School hosted a compelling presentation by Living Voices for 8th grade social studies students, which I had the pleasure of attending. The featured performance, Fly for Freedom, starred Jasmine Eileen Coles as a young 1940s pilot striving for the double victory, peace abroad, and an end to segregation at home. The students were deeply engaged throughout the show, which concluded with an insightful Q&A session with the performer. In sports, our JV girls basketball team won the GMC JV tournament on February 25th by defeating Colonia. Senior Dominic Lizak won his 100th career match during the state tournament on February 26th. And Ava Catano became the first sophomore in school history to record 1,000 points in girls basketball on March 3rd.
Fun fact.
Fun
I
fact.
heard her
Mother.
also got it in 10th grade.
I heard that too.
It's pretty cool.
Very cool. The Churchill Junior High School Theater Program is proud to present Legally Blonde Jr. on March 25th, 26th, and 27th at 7 p.m. This high-energy musical follows Elle Woods on her inspiring journey of determination and self-discovery, brought to life by our talented student cast and crew. We invite the community to come out and support our students for an evening of fun, music, and outstanding performances. Tickets can be purchased at cjhs.booktix.com. The East Brunswick Education Foundation will be hosting their 32nd annual Partner in Excellence Award Dinner and Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Wednesday, April 29th, 2026, at the Pines Manor in Edison. More information can be found on our website. Just a few reminders. Schools will be closed for all students and 10-month staff on Friday, March 20th. Schools will be open on Monday, March 30th, and Tuesday, March 31st. Schools will be closed Wednesday, April 1st, Thursday, April 2nd, and Friday, April 3rd for spring recess. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mittman. So we are moving on to our first presentation of the evening, the Finance Committee of the Whole, and our 2027 budget discussion.
This is, I want to say it's a,
Joint?
no. Joe's got this one. No, it's joint, but Joe is going to work us through some things to keep in mind and what we're thinking about and what we do know in terms of numbers and what we're still looking to find out. And this is to get us ready for the tentative budget. And it's a tentative budget because the way it runs, the way the state has it set up is we have to put something through to get the process started. So the tentative is just what it could be, but not necessarily, because once we do that, then the work begins. It is the budget in May that's going to really get us to what we're going to do for 26, 27. But beyond that, I think it's really important for us to understand, we did, the last time we were here, we talked about just the basics, what we should know, right? And what we're thinking about. What we want to share with you is just the facts that we know for now. We want to show you the numbers, and then we're going to have a conversation about it. I want to be very clear that we are not taking any action today. We are having a conversation. Okay?
Can you say that one more time?
No actions will be taken today. We are having a conversation. This is what transparency looks like. And I know we will have a robust conversation today, and I just crave indulgence for people to pay attention and be better informed. And please be nice to Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I do appreciate that. So just to set the tone so we are all on the same page, this is not a presentation. This is a guided tour of a discussion. So we have some slides that will keep us, going. And we, like we talked about, we've had 2 rounds of small group meetings. Thank you to the board for all the time and effort that went into that. So, we committed to bringing that back to the whole, to speaking in public. So let the journey begin. Next. So the goals of this conversation, again, open discussion on the 27 budget. We're going to go over state aid, charter school, health benefits, special education, transportation, the shared services agreement, the short-term debt piece of it, the cost of sports, free and reduced student fees, and then budget reductions. So if you recall, back in February, when I did the presentation, we talked about state aid, the factors. So state aid came out. This is a comparison of the current year state aid compared to next year's state aid. There's a couple important pieces. The uncapped aid, that's the state formula. That's how it runs. But again, like I spoke about last month, there's a lot of other factors that go into the formula. Last year, there was a cap on the amount of decrease in state aid. If you look in the column, increase, decrease over prior year. If we didn't have that cap, our state aid would have went down $5.2 million for FY26. Because of the 3% maximum decrease, we lost 1.1 million in state aid, and our actual state aid was 37.3 million. For 27, uncapped state aid is almost 41 million. The actual increase should have been 3.6. The maximum that we could receive is 6% of that, so it's 2.2 million. The actual state aid is 39,591,000. So we are happy that our state aid went up. We are not happy that it didn't go up enough. All right, so mixed bag. So if the board has any questions on this slide, have at it.
Just a quick question. If I remember right, in fiscal year '24, we're still not even up to the level of state aid that we got that year, right?
I believe we're right there.
Yeah.
Without having the exact number, it's very close.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's, yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up earlier today. I think we're still not there, just to put that into context.
Yes.
So even the number is matched, but the buying power decreased a lot due to the inflation. I just let people know that.
Right. So, a couple other things to note on this slide. The cost or the allocation the state gives us per gen ed kid, student and special ed student, both increased by the CPI, and we'll talk about what CPI is in another slide, of 3.58%. The main reason why our state aid increased were the factors that I talked about, the equalized valuation factor and the income factor that the state applies to those numbers. They both decreased significantly. So the income or the equalized valuation that I spoke about, that was spot on. Of course, the income, we didn't know what that number was going to be, and those other things, but it's the factor that changes from year to year, which makes it very difficult to try to forecast on what our state aid's going to be. You know, that's an $8 million, almost $9 million swing if it wasn't capped. So trying to plan what those variables are make it very difficult. All right. Any other? Okay, next slide. So charter school. So you saw state aid was going up 2.2 million. Unfortunately, the charter school payment that we're mandated to budget for is increasing $960,000. So on the screen, you see a comparison of the current enrollment, what charter schools we have, current year compared to next year. The biggest increase, again, is Hatikva. Currently in the budget, the state for the current year said we had to account for 393 students. As of March 12th, 2026, they have 398 students. They're projecting 435 students. So that's a 42 student increase, budget to budget comparison, which results in the most significant increase of 924,000, along with 2 additional brand new charter schools that we have students attending. And I think the thing to look at there is for one student, there's 3 charter schools receiving, they each have 1 student, they're receiving over $43,000 per student.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. So I seem to remember, I could be making this one up, but I seem to remember that Hactiva was close to maxed out in terms of their enrollment. How are they able to add more than 10% of their, increase their student enrollment by more than 10%?
That is a great question. I don't have a good answer. I apologize.
Okay.
I don't know how they can project that and not be questioned.
Jamie?
And-
I have a
Wilbur,
Wilbur.
did you have another?
Sorry, Wilbur, if you want to finish. go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, and I also remember hearing something about forecasting. Is that something that the charter schools can do in terms of coming up with these numbers?
Yeah, I'm sure, they can forecast, they might be saying, okay, their kindergarten enrollment might be increasing, the levels of students that are from East Brunswick. We know charter schools are supposed to be community-based, but Hatikva in particular carries kids from various districts. So they can be projecting that the East Brunswick population will increase going there. The only thing I can say, twice a year, we do verify our enrollment. So at October 15th and then also at the end of the year, if the enrollment is not what is projected, we end up not paying that full amount. But that doesn't help us with the budget because we're required to budget that payment.
And I think it's important to note that the restrictions that are put on public schools are not put on charter schools. So we have guardrails, there are different, there are things we can and cannot do. There are line items we can use and cannot use. Even the per pupil cost, we never get it all. But those rules don't apply to charter schools.
That was actually going to be my question. As far as funding goes, I know that the state gives us different amounts based on the student profile, but sometimes that's prorated, for example. In our case, we would pay that full amount without proration to these schools, depending on student need. And of course, we want to support student needs, but there is no state law that creates equity within that.
I think that's a fair statement.
Thank you. Okay.
Antoinette.
You're doing a good job, Joe, because a lot of the questions I had, you already answered for me, so thank you. So just looking at this, the state aid that we got is pretty much going to be hand-delivered to Activa and the other charter schools, right?
Like
I just want that to be
45% of
very
it,
clear.
give or take, 40, 45%.
Because it looks like we got 2 million more.
2.2.
So
and
half of
960.
half of our state aid is going to a school that has no regulations at all and that we can't control. And just for clarity, we can't project what our schools are going to look like, right? Correct?
So our state aid is based off of actual enrollment as of October 15th.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
And
Thank
we
you.
wanna make sure I'm
know,
not ignoring
and I
this.
think we know for sure that since October 15th, our numbers have gone up, but it's not accounted for.
Yeah, I spoke about the increase in out-of-district placements by 11 students since October. There's no additional state aid for those 11 students that have been placed, whether they've moved in new or, required those services.
One more question. So are they allowed to open enrollment in the middle of their year? Can they reach out to you in December of next year and say, listen, we have 2 more students that have joined us?
So
Yes?
what will happen, so say they're projecting the 435 and they end up with 450.
Right.
We have to pay them additional that was not budgeted, where we can't, there's no mechanism for us to say, oh, we want more. We have to deal with what we have. They get to take away from what we have to finance what their needs are.
And just so the community understands, just in case anybody's confused, we're only paying for East Brunswick students that are attending the schools, correct?
Yes,
So hopefully our families and our communities see how amazing our schools are and bring their students back into our schools, because every student that's going there, they're taking $16,000 away from our budget to be able to create a better learning environment for our district. All right, thank you.
Tim, did you want to?
It's now 16,000. If you calculate the transportation, actually it's 18,000.
I'm just going based off.
yeah,
But you add up the
We'll
transportation.
get to
yeah.
that, yeah.
Transportation.
Sorry, Tim.
That actually was a
go ahead.
question. Does that, I'm just looking at the bottom two, for instance, does that 43,000 include transportation or is that just tuition?
that's just tuition. Those students hit multiple buckets. So the gen ed, special ed, low income component, potentially English as a second language, speech. There's different dollar amounts that the state assigns that, so depending on their, student characteristics that determines the funding level.
Thanks. And then do you recall or know off the top of your head our per pupil cost estimated?
I would say 18,000-ish. It depends. The software breaks it out, kindergarten, first to fifth, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, and then the different self-contained classes.
Thank you.
Jamie?
And then this may have been brought up in previous years or previous budget meetings, but Joe, can you just please confirm, we have no tuition negotiation ability with any of these charter schools? They give us a bill and we pay it, and we don't have the ability to give comp values or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
in my following comment is not going to say any of these 6 charter schools are doing this, but if you read recently over the last 6 months, there have been several charter schools that the administrative costs, the owner's family members are all making, $500,000 for their roles. There's one that was making even more. And that goes into, their operational cost. Not necessarily what we have to pay because that's determined by the state, but they're operating with no limitations. Where we have administrative cost limitations that is dictated by the state, they're not held to the same standard.
Anybody else?
So I think we can all agree that not only does the state need to work on the funding formula, they also need to work on the regulations surrounding charter schools, because with the financial crisis that's going on right now, and it's not just East Brunswick, it's all the schools, a lot of the financial problems that districts are facing are the mandates that come with the charter schools. And it's not fair because they can, you know, pick and
Or lack
choose.
thereof.
And they,
Lack
and,
of mandates, yeah.
all right, thank you.
Anybody else? on this slide?
Okay, so this slide just dictate, I can't speak. It shows, how about that, the charter school tuition plus the transportation, because it's just not the tuition. We're obligated to transport those students as long as they meet the state requirements. So for FY '26, transportation was 546,000. '27, it's 552,000 we're projecting. So the total is, for next year's budget, $800 million is coming out of the budget and going to charter schools.
8 million.
8 million, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did I say 800 million? Yeah, listen,
Drink some water.
yeah, forgive me, the numbers, it's been a little bit intense with the numbers, so they're running together.
Joe, don't make those mistakes when you're doing those,
Yeah,
those slides.
That's why I have Tara to check me. Yeah. All right, any questions on this? All right, next slide.
I have just a comment. These transportation costs, those are not including children that are in our district that don't go to charter schools, that just go to parochial schools or private schools, correct? Do we have a number of how much those transportation costs are? Because I
The-
know we do subsidize.
So the way the non-publics work, you either get aid in lieu. The state determines the threshold. Right now, it's like 1,100 and change. If we cannot transport them on a bus for less than that, then we pay them directly. That amount, in the budget is approximately $350,000. And then if we do have to transport them, that's on another line. I don't know that off the top of my head, but we do have that split out.
So including that, that would put us at $1.1 million that we're spending on schools that our children are not enrolled in.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, health benefits, it's a big number. Our premiums are increasing by 22%. We are self-insured. That's a very large percentage. We haven't seen an increase like that in forever. In reference comparison, the state health benefit plan is going up 31%. So between the 22% premium increase and then the employee contributions decreasing and the shift in staff, staff are moving to the Chapter 44 plans. So let me explain that. Chapter 78 determined several years ago how much the contribution that the employees had to make to cover their health benefits. How many years ago, Matt? Like 5 years ago?
Chapter 78
No,
was
Chapter
passed,
44, I'm sorry.
yeah, so Chapter 78 was passed June 28th, 2011. Chapter 44 became effective July 1st, 2020.
All right. So with Chapter 44, those contributions are significantly less. Chapter 44 was intended to bring down the premiums. That has not happened. Chapter 44 establishes a minimum level of coverage that we have no choice but to provide. So the savings are not there. We're actually losing money or increasing cost when staff go to the Chapter 44 plans. And all new staff, the only option is to go to the Chapter 44 plans. So if somebody retires that were in the Chapter 78 plans, new person's hired, they go into the Chapter 44. As a result, a complete combination of all that, health benefits are increasing $7.9 million.
Joe, just for comparison, what was the premium increase last year?
Last year it was 7%.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, can you give everybody an explanation on why staff would go from 78 to 44, so that it's just that they understand what would make the staff change?
No, I'm going to apply some basic numbers. So under Chapter 78, they're all of our direct access plans, the traditional plans. So say the premium for family is $40,000, but an employee's contribution under that plan was $7,000 a year. By going to a Chapter 44 plan, family, the premium only decreases by $1,000. So the district is still paying $39,000 for that plan, but their contribution is decreasing by 60%. So it's the level of benefit, there's not that gap. You know, it's still a very good plan, but the contribution is so much less. So I think in the beginning, staff were nervous to make that change, you know, because they had good benefits. And as time has evolved and more, you know, staff are retiring over those years, they're going to that more affordable plan for them. But on our end, we're not so lucky.
I mean, I think people should know, under Chapter 78, if you have family coverage and you make more than $110,000, you pay 35% of the premium cost of the plan. So if you have a $45,000 plan, and you have family coverage, you make more than 110, you're paying $15,000 towards it. Under Chapter 44, the level of benefits are not very different. There's a few more restrictions in the Chapter 44 plans. It's not tied to the premium, it's their salary, and it's capped. It can't exceed $9,000. $9,000, yeah, $9,000. So this was something that was passed. It was passed July 1st, 2020, did take effect in 2021, but any new employee, as Joe said, has to go into the Chapter 44. The difference, though, is any employee that was hired prior to July 1st, 2020, they have the option to stay in Chapter 78 plans or go to 44. I can tell you across the state, most of the people are going to Chapter 44 because A, you contribute less, and you're getting probably a benefit package that's 95% as good as what you had.
Right. So
it's just the law that they passed did not have its intended results. They were projecting it was going to save $1 billion. It's actually probably cost districts $1 billion.
And our district is in a better position with the healthcare because we have private, right? So
You're
other,
self-insured, so
Right.
you guys are better than, if you were in the state plan, I mean, there's districts where, if you're in the SEHBP, the state plan, it went up between 31 and 37%, depending on their usage. So, and they're predicting that next year, the state plan's gonna go up another 50%.
Yep.
So right now, the Direct 10 plan in the state, the Direct 10 family plan, Direct 10 is the richest plan, the family plan is $75,000 for family coverage. So if you're paying Chapter 78, you're paying $25,000 for family coverage. Or you could go to Chapter 44 and get a plan that's almost as good and be capped at $9,000. So that you can see why employees are making the change, because $25,000 is absurd.
right. So state aid funding formula reform, charter school reform, and now we need healthcare reform.
Well, there's-
I just want to tally up as we're going.
The healthcare is a big
Okay. So any
You have questions?
other questions on this?
And Matt, was there a change coming for this next year?
So there's discussions right now. The legislature is actively looking at coming up with a new health benefits plan. And you have to understand, changing a plan in the state is a pretty onerous thing. I mean, everyone says, oh, the legislature and governor can change the law. You have to understand, there's lots of different unions. It's not just the NJA. You have the NJEA. You have all the state colleges. They have CWA employees. You have police. You have fire. There's lots of different unions at all different levels. So they're looking at, and they have to work with the unions. What's interesting is the teachers in K-12 districts, teachers, staff, they're in what's known in the state plan called the School Employee Health Benefit Program. The School Employee Health Benefit Program has 9 commissioners on it. 3 of the commissioners are members of the NGA. 3 members are like I think the treasurer from the governor's office, and 3 other members are appointed by the New Jersey school boards. And they all have to come together to make changes to the benefit plan. Well, they never can agree to make changes, and it gets roadblocked. So I know for a fact that the legislature is looking at coming up with some type of legislative change to fix this, because what you guys have here, this is literally across the state. And it's not just across the state at K-12 districts. It's across the state at municipalities, at county colleges. You have a 4-year university in Hudson County that's being closed down and being taken over by another 4-year university in New Jersey. It's not sustainable. And so I think the governor's aware of it, so is the legislature, and that's what they're gonna work on. But they have to work, there's a lot of stakeholders that come in. So this isn't a quick fix. This is something that probably will happen during 2026 for like a January 1st, 2027, or July 1st, 2027 implementation. The other thing too is Chapter 44 expires December 31st, 2027. So nobody knows what happens when that expires.
Anybody else? All right, next slide.
So we move on to special ed. As noted earlier, we've increased out-of-district placements since October 15th by 11 students. With that comes additional services, purchase services, whether it's one-to-one aides, one-to-one nurses, OT, PT services. The net increase that we're projecting in those lines is $2 million. These are services that are legally required. And the important thing, just like with the charter schools, the out-of-district placements have no caps. They can charge what they want. We routinely receive notifications by law if their tuition is going to go up over 10% during the year, they have to notify us. There's nothing we can do, we have to accept it. And then once they finish their audit, we get a certified tuition bill a year or two later stating, well, we thought the tuition was $100,000, it's really $110,000, you have to pay us the extra $10,000. Very rarely do we receive a refund of overpayment. Don't know how that always works in their favor, but it does. So,
Does this include the transportation also?
no,
Okay.
this is just straight tuition and purchase services.
And the reason I'm asking is because for special education, that transportation also includes aids and things on the bus as well,
Yes.
right? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Can I just bring up one other issue with our special education students in our budget, which doesn't have to, which doesn't have to do with costs, and I know I've mentioned this before, but I think it bears repeating with our discussion here. So in the past, the way that our special education funding comes in terms of what the state gives us is they ask us what percentage or how many special education students that do you guys have, we'll fund them. And we say we have X number of special education students, and our number has been around 19-20% now. And the state says, right, we're assuming everybody has 15% instead. And I remember I did a back of the envelope calculation based on that. And what I figured out is that you can look at it this two ways that puts this in real numbers. And forgive me if my numbers are wrong, but I think they're pretty much in line with what I had figured out. What the state is saying is that in East Brunswick, they'll fund 1,300 special education students in our town, and the remaining 200 can just go take a walk. Or if we had actually got funded for the work that we do, we'd be looking at an extra $5 to $7 million a year. And this has been happening for close to a decade, as far as I can figure out. Now, back earlier in the early part of 2025, the New Jersey Senate put out their numbers regarding the budget and where state aid was going to be going towards education. And they did mention that they were going to now look at every school district and count up the actual number of special education students that we have, which would be better for us. However, I also noted, and I know I've said this before, it's often good to hear what's not being said. And what was not said was how much per student were they funding. And I haven't gotten hard numbers yet, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like they're funding less per student, even though they're counting up the total number of students. So it really becomes a bit of a wash in terms of our special education funding. Is that right?
I think that's accurate. I think it also proves your statement that in the current FY26 year, we had less special ed students. Our state aid was based off of less, and we received over $11 million for special ed state aid. This year, we have more students. We're receiving $10 million. So again, it just reiterates the frustration with the state aid formula and trying to predict how to budget and plan and effectively plan. So, yeah, your comments are correct.
Right, and I want to be clear, you know, I know we do a great job with our special education. We have a lot of really dedicated people that help these students out, and I'm a pediatrician, so if we're doing something good for kids that need help, bring them all. You know, that's kind of my feeling about this. But the other way to look at this is that if we were funded fairly for the great work that we did, that's our budget deficit for the past two years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Just in going to Trenton and hearing about how funding is, of $13.1 billion that I think Governor Murphy had allocated in the last year of his terms, I think $1 billion was spent on one-to-one high-impact tutoring, if I'm not mistaken. How the state decides to support the most vulnerable is decided in ways that don't seem equitable, to your point, Wilbur, right? Because if you treat every child equally, then there wouldn't be this disparity in funding. I'm not saying that the state is right or wrong in this, but I think that when you have people who are not educators or doctors or people who understand pediatric learning and what literacy should look like, you have money spent in ways that are altruistic but not necessarily impactful. But again, that comes back to the funding formula issue, which is not something we can address here. Working with what we have and really analyzing where we can spend our dollars to create the most strength for each student. I'm really proud to say we've done a great job of that.
Next slide. Okay, transportation. So transportation, we're projecting an increase of $973,000. The increase is based off of the required routes. We do not offer any courtesy busing in this district. The required routes are determined based off of distance students live from schools. For elementary, it's like 2.1 miles. For secondary, it's 2.3. And then hazardous routes. So of course, what's a hazardous condition? Route 18. We don't have students walk across Route 18. There's a criteria that's determined. Once it's determined it's hazardous, transportation is provided. CPI of 3.58%. CPI is the cost price index that the state determines that a contract can increase and be renewed at that percentage. That's the max. We are currently in negotiations with all of our contracted route providers to bring that down. The budget has 3.58% in it right now because if everybody takes the max, that's what we're required. We were successful last year in bringing that renewal percentage down from CPI, and I hope we are successful again this year. The other thing with this slide, this does not include our in-house transportation. These are just contracted routes. And we are about 60% in-house, 40% contracted routes. And the special ed out-of-district placements are built into this. Because of the distances usually they're traveling, we use contracted providers for that.
Just a question with regards to gas prices. Regardless of gas prices, the max CPI is the max CPI.
Yeah, so the state does a formula. Hopefully the gas prices go back down as quickly as they came up. But that will be determined in the next round of CPI. They don't issue it, it's not a living number. They do it every, 6 months or so. So, yeah, and that will be a factor, I'm sure.
Excuse me, beyond the out-of-district routes that are, we may or may not, they come to us, what internally here in East Brunswick, what would contribute to like that increase? Would it be new housing developments popping up that would, require, can you help explain some of those factors?
So we've had to add several routes this year. It's due to, if it's not out of district, right, if it's internal, a new development opens up and there's 80 new students, they're not getting on an existing route. Like, we're probably adding 2 buses. We also look at the time spent on a bus. You know, we don't want a kindergarten student on the bus for an hour, right? So, you know, it's managing and balancing all of that. You know, we heard about, you know, the redistricting, which is going to take a while, but we have those pockets that do cause, you know, increased costs. But that's not going to be solved overnight, and we're not taking any action to solve that. But that is something that, you know, will impact in the future.
But no actions.
Taking action, just not today, yes.
So is our transportation department essentially evaluating that on an annual basis and
Yes.
redrawing all of this on an annual basis?
So the routes, the where students are going, that doesn't get redrawn, but the routes are reevaluated every year because, you know, you have kids in 4th grade going up to Hammersholt. So what are the incoming kindergartners that are going to that school? So it is a process. In fact, I have a meeting tomorrow with transportation to see where we're at and, you know, see if we can gain more efficiencies.
Is there software that's being implemented to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a mapping software and a route software that, you know, you punch in the addresses and it determines, and then you go through it and make the tweaks that are needed.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Next. Okay, shared service agreement, short-term debt. We have a number of shared service agreements with the township. We did one for the ice hockey arena, for providing transportation for their summer camps, for their trips. So we also do short-term debt. By law, school districts are not, it's more complicated and we don't get the same rate, interest rate, if we do short-term debt. So we do shared service agreements with the township for that financing. It's part of their annual process. They can issue debt every year, bond anticipation notes and all that. So we piggyback on that, and then we pay the township to pay down that debt. We have a short-term debt issue that is expiring after this year. It is a recommendation not to renew that. As a result, that's a decrease of $762,000 in the budget. But there are ramifications, right? Impact of replacing vehicles. So those cycles have to be looked at and changed a little bit. Capital improvements. We're doing the Irwin roof this summer because of a short-term debt agreement with the township. The Frost parking lot is on tap, and that's all how it's being financed. So it's part of a bigger initiative that we're taking internally to look at those projects, what funds we have available, and reimagining what the priorities are. The issue will be in 5 years, so we have a gap. No loan expiring to replace. So in 5 years, we won't have that automatic renewal. So this is a impact now, but will show up again in 5 years. All right. And hopefully in 5 years, we're in a better financial condition to, determine what we're going to do. So. Next. All right. So budget projection. The projected revenues right now is $208,857,000. The projected appropriations are $214 million. That leaves us with a deficit of 5.5, almost $5.6 million. So I know, again, I'll reiterate that the community, we received a lot of comments like, oh, great, your state aid went up, all your problems are solved. But again, we were happy to get more, not less, but it did not solve our problems. Just by the items that we just went through, that totaled $11-12 million.
11.9.
Thank you. That was pretty close. So
Somebody's coming for your job, Joe.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
we can
two-thirds of that was healthcare.
Yeah, so, it's a big lift. So we're not out of the woods yet. We have a lot of work to do. But right now, as we sit tonight, it's 5.6 million. Any questions on that? I'll get into some of the reductions that we've talked about. So we've already restructured the financial services department with some movement of staff. We're reviewing all contracted services, whether change in level of service, shifting what those services are. We have a couple retirements that are on the support side that will not be replaced. Our shared service agreement coming off. And then we are going to be allocating the cost of certain positions, lunch aides and custodial during the lunch service time to the child nutrition department. So there are a number of things, and next week, as we go into the tentative budget, we'll start talking about solid numbers where we're at with that. But those items do add up to not half of what we're looking at, but, a decent chunk. But there's still a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done to close that budget gap.
Do you have that number?
Approximately 2.5 million.
So Joe, before you move on, so I just want to make sure. So you mentioned that the retirements this will not be replaced. Will not be replaced. Is limited to the supply side, not the teaching and the instruction side.
No, yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So the work we've been doing is really looking at operations, right? So we've talked about this. I think we did, part of what we said we were going to do was try to balance the budget as much as we can and not take things away from children, right? So that's how we had to start, right? To start to look at how can we do what we do and operate for less. So we started with us. We did not believe that it was fair to start from the classroom up. So we inverted that. And that's been the work. The work has been tedious. I really have to thank, can I thank my team? I have to thank my team because we've been going just line by line looking at how can we do more and how can we allocate for some of our people to do a little bit more and then maybe free up a position. So that's what we did with financial services, for instance. We had somebody who was leaving, very important piece of it. I think a few months back we had the board approve job descriptions, collapse that. So just that's looking for efficiency and alignment. Just because we're doing that does not mean we're going to give less professional service. It's more of looking at where are the overlaps and can we have people extend themselves. And I have to say that's what we've been doing with that. So that's what we did with, and even in renewing all contracted services, Joe has been calling up people and threatening them. No,
Not far from the truth.
to continue to give us what they give us and even better for less. So that's ongoing. Of course, we have some few retirements and you look at attrition, and we're also looking at places here like, okay, how can we either figure out how to do some of the things, who's able to take on a little bit more, what can we do with technology to help us for better efficiency, all of that, and just really looking at things like from that perspective to get us to, and so far we've been able to get 2.5 million. The problem is it's not the problem. It's just that's the challenge. It's the time it takes, the effort it takes, and it's totally a team effort. So the core team here is looking at each of their departments and going and saying, okay, this is what we do here. How can we do this there? Can you take this on? What's smoother? So everybody's going to do a little bit more so that we can close the gap.
But I think it's fair to say that that's pretty much all industries right now, right? I feel like every industry, everyone's doing a little bit more because everyone has to work with a lot less.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I appreciate whoever's going to be doing more. I appreciate you.
All the central office folks, you've seen them here.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Thank you.
Okay, so next slide. So during our small group meetings, there was a request to see how much the actual sports cost, right? Like to show it to, currently we charge $125 per sport. So this slide and the next two slides depict the sport. This is fall sports. The direct cost in the budget, the direct costs are coming from the FY '27 budget that we're projecting, for cheerleading. It's the first one on top. So anything associated with the cheerleading team for the fall, the coaches, if there's supplies, uniforms, maybe not officials, but maybe if they're going to a competition, anything that can be identified for that sport, that's the direct cost for the sport. The fixed cost would be transportation, right? In the budget, there's a transportation line item for athletics, and we have the detail behind it. But from year to year, cross-country might make a finals that, typically they don't make. So it's based off of the trainer. Like, we don't allocate, 20 minutes is for the cross-country team and an hour is for cheerleading. So those are the fixed costs. That total of fixed costs are divided by the number of total athletes that were registered. And that comes up with the 450.52 as the fixed cost. So cheerleading, again, just because it's first on the list, 49 athletes. So the cost for cheerleading would be $900.49 for them. So per athlete. So each sport is detailed out. So this is just a reference for the board, for the community to see, okay, we're charging $125, but the actual cost is more. So all the winter sports. It's important to note on this slide, dance is fully parent paid, ice hockey is fully parent paid. The ice hockey cost is significantly less because of the shared service agreement with the township. Ice time is extremely expensive. It was over $20,000 for the current year. If we don't have to pay that, that saves money to those parents that are fully funding the ice hockey program. So typically, it's double that amount. We'll figure out the cost, projected cost. I think this year it was $2,500, and then when the actual costs come in, if it was $2,100, it's a $400 difference. We refund the money. We never overcharge. We charge them the actual. So that's important to note. Dance is the same way. And then spring is also there for reference.
That's what
So on average, parents are paying about 10% of what the cost is for each sport. 13.5. Okay.
Wow, they're all good for my position.
Wow, Joe. See, Joe? I know, but I think it's important to note that I do have a question. I've been getting this question asked to me a lot from parents, and I've been able to answer it because I know the answer, but I think it'll be better if the whole community got it at one time. When specific teams are doing fundraisers, for example, the football team does one, the baseball team does one, it gives a goal to each student, to each athlete. Where does that money go?
So those are run through the booster clubs, the parent organizations. We have nothing to do with it. We don't receive that money. I know they do a lot of great things. They'll, do the pasta dinners, or they'll buy, sweatshirts or whatever. All that money they're raising is going back into the team, or they'll do the end of the year banquet, whatever the case may be. But that doesn't come in to the district, and it doesn't factor into any of these numbers presented.
Okay, I wanted to make that clear because I think a lot of parents did think that it was going towards payment and, everyone was getting a flat rate.
Right.
And thank you for this because it was definitely eye-opening to see how much it does cost for each athlete to play in the sport of their choice. And for clarification for the people who are at home, The gymnastics team only has 8 athletes, but that's what the team,
Yeah, so gymnastics
Requires, right?
only has a varsity team. The other thing to note, thank you for bringing that up. So baseball, that includes middle school through varsity level. So that's all inclusive. So you'll see, like spring track, there's 440 athletes that participate in that. That's amazing. But that's from the middle school level, freshman, JV, varsity. So different sports have different limits. We don't have a middle school team for everything. We don't have a freshman JV for everything. So it all depends on what the need is, how many kids are participating, what the competition is. Not a lot of school districts around us do not have certain teams at the freshman level. So it's great to have a freshman team, but they might not have anybody to play, or they have to travel far distances. So that all has to be looked at when you're looking at this.
Jamie? Joe, so as I was reviewing these numbers, there's quite a range of expense, right? Some sports per athlete cost is almost 2,200, others is approximately 473, but every athlete would pay the $125
Yeah.
fee regardless of the district cost.
Yeah, currently it's 125. We just raised that fee this current year. It was 50. We were one of the first school districts in the state of New Jersey to charge way back when, 2010-ish. And we kept it at $50 until last year. 125 is probably on the very low end compared to other districts.
And that was my follow-up question, in light of the fact that athletics, while they are critical to supporting mental and physical health, the state does not consider them to be part of thorough and adequate education.
Correct.
So
And-
technically, we do not receive funding for any of this.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And if, not that we would be in this position, but if the state did come in because we couldn't adopt a balanced budget, the first thing they would go after is all your extracurricular activities.
do you have a total cost of what all the sports, all the athletics cost in a budget year?
I think it's like 1.1 million.
Okay, thank you.
And since you brought that up, Joe, that if that would be the first thing the state would go after if the community wanted to, because I know this came up in years past, to do pay to play for all the sports, would that be an option? Because while it sounded drastic to me, but what the response I received, and maybe Antoinette and Lou can speak to this better, was it was actually baseball parents who told me that the students who make the baseball team are spending extensive amount of money externally anyway, and they're the ones that make the team based on performance. So maybe you guys can.
Right, and again, this is separate from the school, any school expenses, but in order to, let's use baseball as an example, it's the way it is right now in athletics, and I'm sure if you don't live in this town, in other towns it's the same way, it's a year-round process. Many moons ago, kids played 2-3 sports. You see less of those athletes now, and more, I'm playing this sport and I'm going to play it year round. And there are many organizations that are involved in that at high costs, but it's the cost of playing. If you want to get to the level that you're looking at, freshman, JV, varsity, you need this year-round training, or at least some training to do that. So those expenses are quite high.
Yeah. So those are the students that end up making our teams
Yes.
anyway. So the argument I heard was that the parents wouldn't mind doing pay to play because this actually the per athlete cost of like $1,051 for baseball is still less expensive than what they're paying.
Absolutely,
externally.
it's less expensive. However, it does add on top of,
Right.
what they're already paying.
Right.
So that's a concern in terms of, the amount. But it's much cheaper this, season than if you took a club team and wanted to play for a season. The expenses are quite a bit higher.
Okay.
Based off the feedback that I've gotten from the community, honestly, last year when middle school sports and freshman sports were on the chopping block, they didn't even ask us if we'd be willing to pay. So I think, hopefully we're not at that level, but I think that when you're considering raising fees, you still wouldn't be asking them to pay the full cost, right? You would just be raising the fee. I don't know, Evelyn.
I
don't
mean,
know.
yeah, listen, we need to balance the budget. Everything is on the,
But
on
what
the
I'm
table.
saying
But
is-
we will not be saying, oh, pay for the full price. We will probably present to the board, if we raise it X amount, this is how much we're gonna get, and it will go into, and if we raise it this amount, so that the board can determine what's fair, what's not fair, or what's drastic, what's not drastic.
Because it still wouldn't be covering the total cost of it.
No,
Right, it's
no,
just
no.
asking parents to
pay
contribute
a little bit more
Right.
Yeah.
inflation.
So, and I guess that's a good point. So if there has to be levels. And I think if we see levels as a board, at least we can tell the community, listen, this we believe is fair, this is not so fair. So I do think that that's important for us to do as we move forward. So thank
And I
you.
think that's what Jamie was alluding to by, asking about saying that everyone pays the same fee, even though it's not all the same, yeah.
Yeah, and just a quick follow-up question, please, Joe. Have we explored what other districts who are able to sustain their sports programs do? Do they have parents pay a percentage of cost, or is it a flat? Have we explored anyone else's strategies with this?
It's usually a flat fee. Sometimes, if the fee is high, they'll put a cap on it. So if you do have an athlete that plays 3 sports, or you have multiple children playing, they'll say the family maximum is X. There's different ways to do it. I'm not aware of any percentage based, because again, these are projections based off of enrollments that we know from spring of last year, because tryouts are still going on, all right? So we don't know those numbers yet. And those numbers are gonna change every year. So it's gonna be a moving target. The costs are gonna change every year. So if you said each sport's gonna pay 50% of the cost, we would still have to budget something, because that 50% might be a little bit low, when the actual expenses come in. And honestly, the manpower to track that, when we're trying to be more efficient and more reasonable with our manpower,
And actually, I really appreciate that perspective, right? Because in being prudent fiscally, we also have to consider our manpower, and we don't want to stretch our talent too thin. You guys are already doing so much.
I just wanted to mention that when I've had conversations with families whose kids are playing sports and the subject of pay to play comes up, the way the conversation always seemed to be pitched is the intent was, we would be completely happy to pay whatever it costs to keep our kids in sports. But in terms of actual dollar amounts, they were talking about a couple $100, which is nowhere close to what the actual cost per
Well, which is why I thought it was
is.
important for everyone
Yeah,
to see how
right.
much, I don't think everyone realized
No.
how much it costs to
No.
play the sports.
And more broadly, that generally tends to be an issue with many of the ideas that comes up, that there's no real clear understanding of what the actual costs are that we have in terms of supporting our students, and often an overestimation as to how much income can come in.
And I think Dr. Madman and Joe are doing a really great job with especially the transparency of this.
Yes.
Tim?
Why are dance and hockey fully parent paid?
So dance and hockey are relatively new. There was a community want and desire to have those teams. Ice hockey goes back 20 years when it first came up, and those parents at the time were told no. A couple years ago, they were told yes, but with strings, the strings being, here's the cost, you're responsible for the full freight. And the parents at the time agreed to that. And dance this is the first year of dance. Second, I'm sorry. And it was the same deal. So as there's a want or a need for new sports, knowing that the budget constraints that we're under, certain sports are willing to pay, because they see the fee of whatever dance is a lot less than the dance studio that they're going to. It's the same thing with travel baseball. I can tell you, my son hasn't played, he's in college, he hasn't played for a number of years, but between the travel, the expense for those academy teams, it's costly. It's probably 10 times what that is if you add it all up. And as a parent, I can tell you, you can play for all the greatest academy teams. You can be part of the best dance studio. Being a member of your school team, there's nothing like it. The energy and everything.
My husband
So,
says the same thing.
so
Yeah.
Nothing like
there's the benefit to the student, but it's also the benefit to the school community. And I think that's all part of stuff that we struggle about, and that maybe we don't talk about publicly, but that is something that weigh on us. When we're when the board makes these decisions.
And that's why I think it's important for families to know what the cost is, because, I mean, just for basketball in the last couple of weeks, it's been amazing to watch those teams. Very entertaining. It's bringing the students in to watch, parents. I had people in the audience that were watching the game. I mean, I didn't have any kids in the game. I was there because my daughter and I like basketball. We wanted to watch the games. But there were just neighbors that heard about the girls and the boys making it all the way to the end, and they were coming. And I think it's important. Athletics is not an extra for me. For me, the athletics that we offer these children is a lot more than just a sport to play for fun. It builds their self-esteem. For a lot of the students, it's a place where they can have a family, have that sense of bond. It puts a little pressure on them to do good in school because they don't want to disappoint their coaches, and they definitely don't want to disappoint their friends if they can't play that day or that weekend because they're not doing what they need to do in school. But for me, this is an investment worth protecting. So if the community feels like I do, which I think they do, and I think Lou will also, I mean, Tim is also a sports dad. I think everyone here pretty much, right? No. Okay. Sports is more than just something fun to do at your school. Like Joe said, it is a completely different feeling when you put on your Bears uniform.
If I can just add to that, that was well said. When it comes to sports, when it comes to certain activities, band, choir, all those things, we're talking about what this community is made up of. The kids go to school, I'm sorry, thank you. The kids go to school, they work so hard in school, and they're great academically. But when you ask kids later on in life, what do you remember about school? They rarely say, I loved that math class. They might have loved it, but they don't think of it. They think about the team they were on. And I taught math, so believe me, I'm not picking on math. But I think you have to look at what brings people to the table, what makes people feel that EB Green. And when I see the new group of kids at the high school with their new varsity jackets on, it is so cute. And the first time, when you said, you couldn't have said it better. First time you put on that uniform to go play a game for your school, that's you never forget that. And for our kids, I think that's something that we have to continue on. And I know that we are going to do that. It's just a matter of making it affordable and making it work for everyone. But again, we have such great programs, such great families and coaches and a community that supports. As Antoinette said, you go to games and you see people that have no connection to that particular team, but they want to come out because they bleed EB Green and they want to support our programs. The same with when you go to concerts. I remember, I don't want to embarrass anyone, like the last concert I went to, I see Wilbur, he's running down the aisle taking pictures like a happy, he's part of this community. He wants to take pictures of what's going on out there. I love that. I mean, that's just what we're about. So, these kinds of programs and the arts, we'll find a place. We have to find a place for them because it's just too important, and I know that's what we're going to do. So we appreciate these numbers, and again, full transparency, and that's what's great about this because we have some numbers to look at and to crunch. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm about to pass out with the heat. So
I just
I'm not
wanted to
literally
add,
sorry, please.
if you don't mind, sorry, I think if we're going to be reevaluating all of this, we do need to consider whether or not dance and hockey are established enough to be no longer parent play. I think that we really need to consider that.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I couldn't, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's all right. I think that, I don't know what the threshold is that we've used to evaluate whether or not something is or is not parent play, or parent pay, excuse me. But it seems to me like these programs have been around long enough and are well established enough that we maybe need to move them out of that category and put them with all of the other sports so that they're not solely parent pay activities. Just throwing it out there.
I think we're going to have to do a lot of discussion and evaluation of all this, and
Yeah.
keeping in mind that at the end of the day, like we said earlier, the state doesn't care. I actually had a private meeting with a certain senator, this was 2 years ago before I was even on the board, and he said, if you guys want it, pay for it. Like verbatim, just like that, so it's just
That's fair.
things, yeah, but I agree, Tim, we have to reevaluate. Anna, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm so relieved that we're not like where we were this time last year going, oh, we're gonna have to cut this sport and that sport and, what a nightmare. So I'm glad that we're going away from that. I was just wondering, with the amount that the parents are currently paying, so it's $125 per sport, right? And I see that there's really a wide range of how much it costs to run each sport. Has there been any consideration given to like a tiered system? So if you're in a more economical sport, I don't want to say cheap,
Like
that sounds
track, I mean
terrible.
like track, which has like 400
Right,
kids.
because it doesn't,
Sliding scales.
right, like a sliding scale, because it doesn't cost as much to have a track team as it does to have, something where you're having to rent facilities. I don't know.
So
Throwing it out.
I think everything is on the table.
Okay.
right? So whether it's free, 125, 250, full
Okay.
freight, sliding scale, that is a decision that the board is gonna have to make based off of the numbers. Because
Right.
understand, like, right now, we're in the position for every dollar we increase in expense, that's a dollar added to the deficit, right? Every dollar we decrease from revenue, that's, so it's, as long as we keep on moving forward and trying to close that gap and make it where, we do a computerized online registration system and payment. So as long as we can program it, we can make it happen. So, I think we have some flexibility. And, we can bring some different options, if we raise it $10, because then you can do the math, right? Like $10 on this many athletes, you can say, what is it? If it's 20, if it's a sliding scale. So, I mean, obviously, a number of board members are very good with the calculator, so,
I think all of them, I think you're in trouble.
yeah, I know, I know.
Because as a parent, well, my kids are all adults now, but they were all in the marching band, and we did whatever we had to do to make sure that we had money for those kids, because marching band was so important for them, and the amount of money and time that my husband and I spent. We were band parents for 9 years. And the fees and everything else we paid, and we sacrificed to make sure that our kids could be in the marching band. And so I'm sure it's the same for a lot of parents. And if we have to raise the rate a little bit more to guarantee that those kids can stay in the programs that they love, if we could, in a perfect world, we'd be able to offer everything for free. But because, in our hearts, that's what we want. We want that. But we can't, because we're being beaten down by the state pretty much. Somebody who comes along and says, you have to do this, this, and this, and then makes a mess and goes, okay, go figure it out. So I personally would rather see raising rates, whether it be on a sliding scale or whatever, so that we're still able to offer these quality programs to students.
If I may just say one more thing, just on this. We all know that academics is number one. That's what we're built around. That's what we have to do. We have to do that right. We have great faculty, we're doing a great job. That we can do better? Yes. If we can, we'll do better. These are our additions. So that's why when we sit down and we look at numbers to, what we're gonna do, it's reasonable. So I think that the sliding scale idea, or at some point, having to pay more is gonna be a reality. And I think that's what the public will have to see, that, it's gonna be a reality. Because we really don't want anything to affect the academic portion of what we do, and I think that's, that's without discussion. But these are the other things that also help round out what our families and our kids think are so important, to East Brunswick, and why many families came here for academics, number one, but all the other stuff too that is so important to this community. So, thank you.
And Joe, do you know have you asked neighboring districts what they're charging for their athletics?
We haven't gone out and surveyed, but we have a sense of what is out there.
And what is
because-
it?
So, it's 250, it's 325. Like with the 325, I know there's some caps on there. Some districts are moving away from a specific sport or club and going to just an activity fee, almost like a college setup. Now, there's pros and cons to that. You're not going to charge a kindergarten student the same as a high school student because just the options are not there. So, there's a number of ways, but I safely say that we are on the lower end of what we are charging. Not saying that I recommend increasing it, I don't have an opinion on it.
We're just the board.
Poor
We vote
Joe.
on stuff. You
Yes.
recommend. You know
Yes,
that. Okay,
yes.
Just making
and-
sure.
right.
I had researched, researched last year neighboring districts when that was on the chopping block, and I was like, we're charging $50, why would we cut this without even offering it? And I can speak for baseball because I've been paying baseball for 100 years. EBBL, our amazing local baseball complex that has brought all of our kids here, it's more than $50 for T-ball. So when you're playing on your school, middle school, high school team, it's a big deal. Parents are able to do it because they're already paying for it just for T-ball. Soccer, I can speak on soccer because my daughter's in soccer. I think that it's important to understand that this is something that is important to the community. And I did have a question, actually. Anna had mentioned a tiered pricing system. Would that be difficult? Because obviously the numbers are changing every year, right? So it would be difficult, right? Yeah. Because if there's, the popularity this year is soccer, and then in 4 years from now, it's not soccer anymore, and then, bowling's blowing up, and everybody wants a bowl, but bowling is only $50. Well, don't quote me. It's a lower price than the other sports, but now bowling is the more popular one. How do you adjust
The
that?
thing that we would have to do is come up with a set metrics that doesn't change every year. And it has to be based off of something. It just can't be arbitrary. So number of student athletes, is that based off of a 3-year average, a 5-year average? The cost, is it based off of a multi-year? We just have to make sure that we're not constantly changing it, because I think that's unfair for the public too, because then they can't plan. We would have to really think about that and come up with this is what it is and it's set in stone, how this is going to happen, for that year. So we're not mid-sport or, right before winter sports starts, like, oh, no, that's a little bit much, we need to change, because then we can't budget properly either.
Is that one of the advantages of an activity fee? Because that number should be more stable, because it's going to only be dependent on the number of students in the school district.
Yeah, I think that's why some school districts have gone to that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. That was great. Next slide. All right. So another thing that the board spoke about in small group was the impact of free and reduced students. So currently, the district's procedure policy is not to charge or to waive the fees for those students that qualify for free and reduced meals. For those that you don't know, the USDA in the state of New Jersey determines the income levels when you fill out the lunch application. Based off of those criteria, we use that to determine free or reduced, and they do not pay for a number of things. For sports, clubs, field trips, if applicable, device coverage, the Gen Ed inclusive pre-K program, which is a state-required program where it's a mix of special ed students and pre-K Gen Ed students. If the fee is $450, $460 for those kids for the month. If you're on free and reduced, there's no fee. For the Gen Ed inclusive, for the special education kids that are classified, they are in that program with no fee because that's part of their educational component per the law. So They pay nothing, whether we want to move forward, the board wants to move forward and change that policy. That's a point of discussion.
Jamie?
What, aside from the offering the food, the free and reduced lunch and breakfast for students, what does the state require of us to subsidize?
That's it.
That's it?
We're legally
Food-
required.
food is the-
That's the
because,
only
you know,
legal
we're part of
requirement.
the-
Okay.
The food system.
Antoinette?
Do we have a total cost of what it's cost, what the district has been subsidizing?
So if we take those 5 items, and there's several smaller items, but you're looking at approximately $250,000 a year between the different components that are applicable across all grades.
I just want to point something out because you just said that the board would have to change its policy. The board's policy wouldn't have to be changed because our policy currently says that the board may provide all of these things at no cost. So I think what's happened over the years is that that has turned from may to will or should. And there was supposed to be some sort of metrics in place, and there isn't.
So-
And I think, because correct me if I'm wrong, but to qualify for free and reduced lunch, there's no actual check. Like anyone can fill out the application and then it's a 3%
Yeah.
random check, right?
So with the lunch applications by law, we're only permitted to do a 3% random sample of those applications and go into detail unless there's cause put forth by an administrator. So yeah, there is verification to an extent, and that's based off of household income. So if you have 2 families living in one household, it's everybody. There's 8 people, and the total income goes to that. The policy refers to that income level that's determined, and then says we have the ability to charge or not charge. And we've done this in the past where if somebody falls with a financial hardship, they might be on paid lunch, but there's a financial hardship. There is a internal process for them to come forward, and we go over various things and we see. Now, part of that process might be, various employees have paid the fees, the mayor's charity fund, EBF, like there's been a number of avenues, and I mean, Lou, you can probably speak a little bit further into that while you were here. Because it used to go through your office. So, yeah, there's different mechanisms, but there is that flexibility, like you stated, like it says may. So, we would just have to shore up what that is so it's applied consistently and not arbitrary.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to make that clear to the public that what we've been doing is actually above and beyond what the policy even says, where it's just been a one-size-fits-all as opposed to it should be being checked. And so we're not changing anything.
Just Joe, just a quick question. So you mentioned the 3% of the folks that you can review, but that is strictly for the state plan, right? In other
Yeah,
words,
that-
for the free and reduced
Right.
lunch and all.
Yeah, that's
But-
through the lunch program. So, I would get legal advice before,
Yeah.
like if we were to extend that, to check more, to
right.
make sure we're not
My only
fixing
question.
one problem and creating another.
Right, no, right. Again, you go through the proper channels. I was just wondering if there's a way to review for these sports, for instance, or, for these activities. If there were people who are really in need and, just could not afford this and we can help out, other families may have more flexibility. So something to do, so that those families who are still, unable to, we wouldn't want students not to be able to participate because their family could not absolutely afford it.
I'm not
That-
agree for that.
that-
And I
That's
think-
something that I think we all, I will tell you right now, that's not something I would agree with.
Yeah, and I think that was the intention of our policy,
Yeah.
is that to really ensure that the people, because again, like the application is just, anyone can fill out that application and get free and reduced, and unless you're randomly selected in that 3%. So the point of the policy existed before any of us
Right.
were even here, so I think it encompasses that.
So,
Lou. It's just a
yes.
matter of putting in like a metrics to determine
Right, okay.
who should really be getting those
extras beyond the food that the state mandates.
So that 3% check is different if we go into this. That's what, I guess what I'm trying to say is,
Right.
this, right, okay.
But
I just want to make sure
I
that,
think my hesitation or concern would be because we're using that as the mechanism, right, to determine if these other items are free, are we violating that piece of that law that we
Right.
have to comply with by checking additional? Because it's connected, I would just want to make sure.
absolutely.
what I was just
That's
about to
my,
ask.
like.
That's
Yeah,
why we
absolutely.
put
Yes.
that gentleman over
Right,
there.
and that's why-
The gentleman to your
Hi,
left.
do we have a lawyer here?
So, you know,
Mr. Jacoby.
Yeah, I mean, remember, your policy says may. The free and reduced lunch deals with child nutrition to make sure that children who come from financially distressed families have the ability to have lunch and breakfast so that they can be educated. If you're on an empty stomach, you can't concentrate. Sports and things of this nature, those are not mandates. I mean, you know, give you an example. I went to public school in Somerset County. When I went there, we didn't have a football team. We had a soccer team. We didn't have enough kids to do both. So, you know, I think you guys could set up different criteria for these things. You know, clubs, sports, you know, field trips, device coverage. You know, device coverage is tied to learning. So that would be a little bit tougher, I think, to do because you could actually impact the kids' learning. You know, the general education inclusive pre-K, I don't know, and I'd have to research it. I don't know if using the free and reduced is the right benchmark for all this stuff. I think you could probably look in. We've had cases, by the way, that we've dealt with free and reduced, where we've been in situations where, not here, in other districts, where the free and reduced, they do a look at it, and the person's living in a $2.5 million house. And they say their income level is $15,000. Like, wait a second, something's not adding up here. So, you know, I think that this is something we could research and then maybe come up with some type of metric where, you know, you might be able to dig deeper into the finances where you're not making a free and reduced. They have to demonstrate something to get a reduction in this.
No, what I think Lou is asking is, would you be legally allowed to use more in-depth evidence, I guess?
That's what he's
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
You would be allowed to,
Yes.
because that's what
Yes,
Joe was
I think-
wondering.
I think you would be allowed to. You would just set up at different metrics, and you wouldn't be basing it off the free and reduced. You would be basing it off of, you know.
Do you qualify for?
But I think what you'd want to do is the free and reduced, you may want to tie it to, I'm just giving you an example, the device coverage. They need a device to learn. So I think that one you'd probably want to leave with like the free and reduced. But other things like sports, clubs, inclusive pre-K, things of that nature, we could research and see what else you could look at.
Very good.
Would the board be willing to do a discounted rate versus not offering it at all if you didn't qualify? If there might, okay, let's say we use these metrics and the family's just $10,000 over what the metrics say, and $10,000 when you have gas, electric, the food prices are up, $10,000 makes a big impact in a family. Would that be something to consider?
Absolutely, and I think the board could ultimately set those metrics where you can figure out, you know, you have to have a certain percentage over this income level to then go into like some type of tiered system.
And that's why the way the policy is written, I'm pointing here, there's no policy there, I don't know why. But the way the policy is written would allow the board to be able to do it at their discretion, correct?
Yes, but I think that Joe made a great point. Whatever you do, you don't want to do it in an arbitrary fashion. I think that the way you do it is you'd have to research what you could do, look at what other districts are doing. And the reason you look at why other districts are doing it is that if other people have perfected it, you don't recreate the wheel, and you know that they haven't been legally challenged. So you don't want to be in a situation where it's going to get you a legal challenge. You want to make sure it's legal, it's fair, it's enforceable, and that it's consistent so that Joe and his staff can make sure that there's a methodology behind it that you can use consistently throughout, not just 1 year, but throughout going forward.
Right. And I'll just add one thing. Whatever is decided, part of that determination has to be, is it manageable, right? So if we have 1,100 athletes a year putting in, and some, they're repeats, but, say there's 700 unique families that are putting in for this stuff. In order to verify, like, that takes time, right? So
Right.
if we want 100% verification, or do we do a random sample, random check? So we put it out there that, like, okay, you have to submit whatever pay stubs, a tax return, whatever, if you want to participate, and then we do more than 3%, a reasonable amount, so people know we are checking. And then what are the ramifications if we find somebody is not being truthful, right? So I think if we're going to go down this road, we have to look at a global start to finish, what the ramifications are, can we actually do it, and go from there. Because if we say, oh, this is going to increase our revenue by $50,000, but we don't have the manpower to do it or the software to do it, then we're not gaining anything. So that's just something to keep in the back of our heads as we go down a different
I just
path.
wouldn't feel comfortable removing any of these things from students who actually need it. So whatever metrics that need to happen, I would be okay with that, like you said, as long as it's within reason.
I especially am concerned with the Gen Ed inclusive pre-K item being on this list, mainly because there's a ton of data and research to show that if you intervene in the preschool years, you get a huge bang for your buck in terms of how those kids turn out. And those benefits are seen over an extremely long period of time. Just to give you an example, the immediate things you can see is like, test scores. You go to pre-K, your test scores are better throughout school. If you don't go to pre-K, that doesn't that doesn't happen as much. But then if you look at things further out, if you go to preschool, your chances of getting in trouble with the law as a student is less. Your chances of going to college are better. Your chances of getting divorced go down. Your starting income when you actually start working goes up. And this is held up over a long time. So I understand the need to save money, but part of this is looking at spending money smartly, right? And that point was made earlier tonight. And I've just overall, in terms of education, I think there's not many ways of spending money more smartly than putting it into preschool education. And given that we're talking about the students that qualify for free and reduced, I'm going to give them the grace to assume that the students we're talking about actually do qualify for free and reduced lunch. Those are actually the most vulnerable kids in our school district, and so. And for those families, it may be that the difference between gaining access through this program to the Gen Ed Inclusive Pre-K program, the choice isn't, oh, am I going to do this or am I going to go to daycare? The choice is, do I do this or do I do nothing for the kid when he's 3 and 4 years old? So that's a thing that we should keep in mind as we're discussing this.
There are no legal mandates to offer pre-K?
No, we are not obligated. We're obligated to offer those students identified as special ed,
Yes.
like early intervention, and then the preschool disabled programs. But no, we're not.
So we are offering free tuition to students to place Gen Ed students in this inclusive pre-K
Yeah,
program.
Because I know Louise is right there, but I believe you want a 50-50 ratio of classified gen ed.
More Gen Ed than special
Right.
education.
And people don't want to enroll in this if it's like, people who are not free and reduced lunch don't want to enroll in this.
There's a mix, because for the ELA program through community programs, there is no discount. So some people, if they qualify, they might go to the AM session in this program where it's free and then only have to pay for half the day. One thing we didn't talk about We also offer a discounted rate for free and reduced students in the early morning and after-school program to make it more affordable for that population. So that would be an impact in the enterprise if the policy or procedure changed.
And Joe, forgive me, I think this might have been discussed in the small groups. The total cost of this, of subsidizing the students for this pre-K program, would you be able to tell us an annual amount?
So right now, I believe we calculated the amount for this current year is like 184 or 186,000, something like that. Yeah. 168. Yeah. That- that's
So out of the
close.
$250,000 for this category, 168,000 of it is for this specific line item.
Right. And now that changes from year to year. That's based off of
But
current
just, this is this
enrollment.
year.
Yeah.
So if you remove this one item, the other things that we're giving to students that are free and reduced are not really impacting the budget. I mean, every dollar impacts, but this is the most impactful part of the budget, and it's not state mandated. And forgive me, Wilbur, because I actually grew up on welfare, so I do know. When you are in a situation like this, the state does give you options for pre-K and daycare in New York. I don't know if that's different in New Jersey, but I know in New York, if you are financially unstable, they do offer your student, your child, the ability to go to school,
No,
down to pre-K 3.
Right, it is the largest dollar amount, but it's also the most expensive, right? Because it's $460 a month for 10 months compared to a one-time 125. So yes, but it's relative.
I just wanted to be clear, because when you said $250,000, I'm assuming that's sports, clubs, field trip, I mean, not really field trips, but device coverage. But it really isn't that much for those items. It really is the pre-K general education inclusive program. And this is just an incentive, just to get
No, I don't want it to be connected to being an incentive to attend the inclusive program. It just happens to be
Oh, okay, it
that for
just
those
happens to be,
kids,
okay.
and there's a lottery
No, I
that
I
goes
have
on,
to ask the
right.
question
No,
because people
and
are
this
gonna
is
wonder.
important for
Yeah, it's good
the
information.
community. There is a lottery that we do every year to, when, students enroll, we always have excess number of students wanting into the program. And then, it's a lottery, and it just, if you do qualify,
Okay.
it's free.
How many more families are going into the lottery than actually get a spot?
I don't know that number off the top of my head.
But,
Can get it there.
okay, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, and again, the concern I have has nothing to do with what our legal mandates are. My concern is we provide education. And it was mentioned earlier that what we're trying to do is avoid impacting our students. I think it's a hard argument to make that restricting access to the general ed inclusive pre-K program is not impacting students. There are students. We may not be legally mandated to provide pre-K, but they're still our students because it's our program. And also, we're not legally mandated to provide sports either, so.
But the programs exist, Wilbur. We have them available. And as a mom who paid for ELA for kids, it's, I believe there's ways to make things happen if you need them to. And I won't speak for any family in this district. I can only speak for myself. But prioritizing pre-K as a pediatric doctor as well was a priority for me. So I went without things during COVID so my children could stay in a STEM-based pre-K. When I had no income, when I was home on maternity with an infant. So at the time when I was financially hard, in hard places, I still found the money. And again, this is a different environment. I don't speak for anyone else, but as a parent who's been in that position, I made it happen because my children come first for me. I think that also because there's a lottery system, we are restricting access because not everybody is selected. So there's still not equity in this program of how we're doing it. And I guess that's an issue for me because if we're going to offer some free, we should have it all free or none free because there can't be cherry picked things. I don't see how that's equitable personally. But I do agree with you.
about the importance of pre-K and supporting our most vulnerable students. It's a really good point you made.
When I first moved to East Brunswick 10 years ago, Adrian, my son, was pre-K. I know, he's going to kill me. He is at the age to be enrolled in pre-K. And I was excited. And when I found out how much it was going to cost, and I was home with 2 little ones, we couldn't do it. So I homeschooled him myself. And then when it came time for my daughter to be able to go to pre-K, still couldn't afford it. So I had her in a program that was 2 days a week because that was within our budget. So I have been in the situation where I had to, make a decision for my family of, could we afford it or we couldn't. And thank God East Brunswick schools are really good because Adrian's doing well without pre-K.
A quick question.
Yeah.
On this, do we have the ability to create sort of like a fund whereby if members of the community who have more financial capacity could contribute towards individuals who do not? We cannot set that up?
No, we cannot solicit money that way.
No, you guys have incredibly generous community with like the EBF and stuff, and they make. Well, I don't have a mic. Tim and I are sharing. You guys have an incredibly generous community with your foundation that does offset lots of costs that the taxpayers would normally borne. So I don't think that I've had wealthy community members, and you guys had one here. You had a very wealthy person make a donation to the district a year or two ago.
Oh, for the
IPPL, yeah.
Right.
So you can do things like that, but I think it'd be very difficult to have a fund, like a kitty. I don't think your auditor would let you keep a kitty where, like a rainy day fund. It sounds good, but I don't think that's legally permissible.
That's good to know. All I'm saying is there is incredible capacity in this town as well. And if I were selecting my device coverage for my kids next year and there was a button that said contribute $25 for a kid in need in your community, I'd be, tempted to do that.
Me too.
And I could handle that. So I don't know. I mean, it just an idea.
So that
So
is
there's
illegal
addition.
either,
No.
Matt? Sorry,
No, it's
Tim.
not.
It's
Well,
a
never
good
mind.
idea.
It's a good idea. I liked it, Tim.
I like it.
So I think the EBEF and the Mayo Cones Charity Fund were doing a lot. So once in a while, we received a grant application, for student supply. Last night, we decided to sponsor one student. The parents come to the school district. We provide the 1 month childcare and job and students' cost. We always supply for this one. So this community is very generous, very generous. Every year we raise very good money, and I believe EBEF are doing the same thing. And so we should appreciate, and everyone should enjoy, and we should join that organization. But to be honest, for every, yeah, I am. But unfortunately, for every organization, everything, you see the same people. We need more people, new people join those charity activities.
Thank you, we will. I think, again, needs discussion, but to Lou's point earlier, there needs to be a metrics because the free and reduced is on an honor system, so to say, and, I would like to think that everybody is honorable, but we know that that's not necessarily always the case, so maybe just a metrics around that.
Well, I mean, the one thing that people should be aware of is when parents are filling out these forms, they're certifying these. And so if they're committing a fraud, it's a fraud on a public entity. So, if people are committing frauds on public entities, that can subject you to civil and possibly criminal liability. So it's important that people don't commit fraud because
Matt's like,
yeah, no, but I think that it's important that everyone in the public knows that it's important that you don't want to do that because it really can. So, give you an example. You don't have this, but there are certain districts where people will enroll their kids in the school and they don't live there. And they think they're gonna, this happens a lot, in certain towns that border towns that don't have nearly as good school systems. So they'll commit, and they'll have the kids enrolled there and they're going to school there. They're not residents. And so what ends up happening is you go through residency hearings, you go to court, and the judge orders them to pay back the tuition. Now, you just heard what Joe said. Per pupil tuition's $18,000. You have a couple kids going to school illegally, that could be $36,000 for a year. Just a couple of years, it could be $72,000. There's many cases that we go after for other districts where people are committing fraud like that. So there are consequences if you're caught. And I mean, hopefully people aren't doing that to you, to this district, because you guys are incredibly generous and you're looking out for the best interest of these kids. And this district, the things that you do are, I think, always with student-centered. It's always what's in the best interest of the student so that they can get educated. And I think that that's what's driven this district for so many years. So luckily, in the years I've represented you, I've never seen a case where you guys have been confronted with somebody who's fraudulently trying
Thank
to
God.
get over on the district.
Yes,
Thankfully.
Matt, we did. Carol caught a few.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, no, we worked
Karen.
very hard on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you. And by the way, on the you guys have the greatest watchdog ever. And nothing gets by Karen.
Oh, Karen is amazing. She's on the registration. She will find you.
And to close this part, well, just to note, several years ago, there was a Board of Education in a big city where the board president and several board members did apply and were approved for free and reduced lunch, and they were caught and they were prosecuted. So it does happen
Oh, yeah.
when you get to that extent. Again, not here, up north in a big city. So, you know, it does happen. So the honor system, yes, but there are
There are
ramifications.
real ramifications.
So,
Based on my school bucks account, I'm definitely not in that category.
Right?
and we appreciate your business. So last slide. So key dates. Wednesday, we have a special board meeting on March 25th to adopt the tentative budget, the starting point. We have April 9th and April 23rd board meetings where we'll continue the discussion. May 7th is the public hearing and the final adoption. The thing to note, coming out of the April 23rd meeting, we have to know where we stand, all right? Running the revisions through the state Department of Ed system, budget system, is a process. There are things that it checks for. We have to make sure we're in compliance. So you cannot go into that public hearing and make changes to the final adoption. Okay, so that's a very important note. So a lot of work to be done, and I'm sure the board will, and the administrative team will be spending more time together.
Yeah, I just want to circle back, Joe, to one of the points that you were making early on in terms of the increase in the state aid and how it's actually not as much as it may look at, despite people coming up to the a good number of us and congratulating us on the situation that we're in. My view, for what it's worth, on our budget situation is that the root causes, and I've been talking about this for a while for those who bother to listen to me. My take on the root cause is that there are costs that we actually don't have a lot of control over. And you highlighted some of those: healthcare, transportation, the charter schools. Those costs are rising at a rate that the 2% cap that we have in terms of what we're able to do with taxes just doesn't make sense. Special education also, because of the rising costs of the out-of-district placement, plus the issue that we have in not being funded fairly for the great work that we do for those students. And it is true that our state aid went up by $2.2 million, but our shortfall this year is 5.6. And if you put those two together, we're at 7.8 million, which is exactly where we were last year. And I think that's just a reflection in that the root causes of our issues have not changed. And it's going to take changing the rules of the game, that's the phrase that I like to use, to really make a dent in this situation. And that's why I'm hoping everybody that listens, that is here or watches our YouTube, gets on board with the advocacy efforts that I know Dr. Mammon is putting together, because these are all things that are happening because of the guidelines and the rules that the state has placed on how we can manage our budget. And until those things change, we can do this again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. And that's not a situation that I would like to be in.
Yeah, just agree with you, Wilbur. Thank you for that. I also want to thank Dr. Mammon and her team and Joe and her team for, as Anna so adequately put it before, a much different feel this year than last year. The way you were approaching it is a more positive way, and I think that's what we really need, because Wilbur's right. I mean, this is not going to change in any time soon unless we get that legislative support. But we still have needs and we still have wants in this district that we have to take care of. So thank you for the work that you put into this. I know it's a lot. I know there's still going to be a lot more. I know we're just scratching the surface now, but I want to thank you all for that and your teams.
Thank you. Anna and then Antoinette.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, thinking back over the last 2 budget seasons, so this is not including this year. Over the last 2 budget seasons, we have eliminated 95.5 staff positions. 95.5, we're already down. Not even thinking about any cuts that might still be coming. That includes 68.5 teachers. So when we're talking about, oh, do a little more, you know what do a little more means to a teacher? That means you get extra kids in your class. That's the do a little more. We eliminated 27.5 elementary teachers. I mean, that's a lot of 27.5. We eliminated 17 Hughes staff teaching positions. When you look at the number of secretaries that we had and eliminated, I think there were 10.5 complete gone secretarial positions, and that doesn't include the ones who went from 12-month to 10-month. All of the work that they were doing was important work. And the community expects the same level of work to be done by less people. So that's just something I want to throw out there to the community. And I know another one is, oh, there's too much fat at the top. Well, let me tell you something. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're down to 1 assistant superintendent. You were not always the Lone Ranger. We used to have multiple assistant superintendents. So we're down to 1. And in the last 2 years, we lost 6 people from central office administration. You're cutting margins really close. That means anybody who's left has got a lot more work to do. And again, we as a board and as a community, we expect the same level of service, but we don't have the people to do it. So I just want to throw that out there for whatever it's worth.
Thank you. Did you have your hand up? Antoinette?
I don't know if I can follow that, but I wanted to give a shout out to Tara.
Hey, Tara.
Tara applied for FEMA to see if we can get any reimbursement. And no, it's a big deal because I'm always about the revenue, right?
Yes, you are.
To get reimbursed for the snow plowing that just had to be done this season. Joe, could you just let them know how much we actually spent on snow plowing off the top of your head?
For the whole year, just this past storm.
This
This
just-
past
this
storm
just
was
this
like
past one.
$280,000.
So if it wasn't for efforts like Tara to help us get some of that funding back, we would definitely have more problems. So I appreciate you, Joe. I appreciate your team. Dr. Mammon, this was definitely a difference. This is the way it should be. This is the way it should be, so I appreciate you listening to the community and listening to us, and we all have the same goal, which is to protect the students as much as we can.
So just one note on FEMA, with the government shutdown, we haven't heard back.
Thanks for that.
But since you mentioned it, we're trying, but, we're waiting on the federal government. And I just want to reiterate again what I started off saying, the appreciation from, I think, the administration on the commitment to the board. It takes a lot. We've been meeting during the day. You all have lives and jobs in the evenings, multiple times. So, I'm sure the charm is going to wear off with me, and Antoinette's going to be throwing hands at me soon. But it's worth the healthy debate, right? Like it's worth the time and the conversation. It's really important. I think I'm comfortable with saying that we have peeled back the curtain, and you guys are seeing much more than what you're accustomed to. So, we'll move forward as a team and get this resolved.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna save this or go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, can I just, what I really appreciate about this conversation is the T word didn't come up a lot.
Which T word?
Tax. Tax. Because, sorry to touch on the sensitive topic, but I'll go there. I'll go there for Joe. Because with our tax levy, if we increase it 2%, that's approximately what, 3 million?
Yes.
Then the current average assessed house in East Brunswick is approximately 122,000 with a tax bill of just over 15,300. That increase would be about $600 a year for that average family, or $50 a month. I think about the seniors, I think about all the people that impacts that may not have children in the schools. So I really do appreciate that we are looking at equitable ways to increase our revenue to the district for the things that we offer that are not part of a thorough and adequate education. It's important that we consider that 62.75% of this town's tax bill is already the school. Yes, that's lower than other districts, but we have to be fiscally prudent. So thank you for presenting numbers and not just jumping to tax increases.
Thank you, Jamie. Leo, did you have yours?
Yes. So as to we have been dealing this with every year. So the change must from the top. So that's why I urge everyone to join the lobby and advocacy group. So please mark your calendar. March 20th, Lieutenant Governor Dr. Caldwell will join our Middlesex County School Board Association meeting, March 20th. So it's May 20. I'm sorry. So May 20. It will be in Pine Manor. So please, we will prepare the dinner for you. So we should talk about funding formula, special education, charter school. So it's good time, good opportunity for us to show up. Yeah. Oh, we will prepare very good food. Yeah, we pay for it. You don't need to pay. So the May 24, 6 o'clock. May 20. I'm sorry. 6 o'clock. Yeah, I can send an email. Yeah, so it's,
Everybody in the community or the board?
at least board should show up.
Okay, no, but you have to be clear because I'm holding my
So, no, we can't. Yeah. So it's good opportunity for us to talk. Every time I talk, I always emphasize the full funding special ed. The school board should have the bargaining power. At this moment, we have no bargaining power. We just cut the check for any invoice thrown to us. So there's many things we should talk. It's a good opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Lulu. I was gonna save this for the good of the cause of the board, but my mic is on. If you can't hear me, okay. I was gonna save this for the good of the cause of the board, but since we're wrapping this portion up, I'm grateful to Dr. Mammon and Joe and Tara, but I'm also grateful to the board because everybody should know all these people up here worked round the clock. They came in for two
separate sessions, and then not only that, but then we debriefed after. So the amount of thought and like effort that went into that was remarkable. I think we've been on the phone these last 2 weeks more than we've ever been. So I'm so proud to be a part of this team and people who are thoughtful and have just like diverse schools of thought and how to bring those to the table. And it's a true representation of what this community is looking for. So thank you all.
Thank you
Yeah.
for being at every single meeting.
Every single one.
All right. Okay, no, so our student representatives report, I think Jane is at the cheerleading banquet tonight, so we don't have a student representative report. So we are moving on to the for the good of the cause for the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. To protect the privacy of all students and staff, concerns regarding individuals, students, and staff members should generally be addressed by first meeting with the appropriate administrative staff. Public participation shall be permitted only as indicated on the order of business and board bylaw 0164 and shall be governed by the rules outlined in the agenda. If anyone would like to address the board, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes. Is there anyone wishing to address the board this evening? Anyone? Going once, going twice. I try to get more and more. All right, okay. Yeah. Okay, all right, public comment is now closed. Okay, so we are moving on to Board of Education, item 1. Do we have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Discussion? Discussion? Item 1, yeah. No discussion. Okay, this is a voice vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right. Business and support operations, items 1 through 14. Do we have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Wilbur and Jamie. Discussion?
Which items are they?
1 to 14, business.
have
Okay,
business
go
and
ahead.
Awesome. So, I said I have no problem being the bad guy, so I'll be the bad guy. We're in the middle of a seriously high budget deficit. I understand it's similar to last year. Last year was high, this year is high. Items 6 through 9, which are overnight trips, which I understand, no?
That's the next session.
Okay, sorry, hi there.
We're on business and support operations.
Okay, no, so I'm good with those, yes.
Anyone business and support operations, items 1 through 14, discussion. Anybody? Going once? Twice? Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Anna Braun,
Yes.
Timothy Cummings,
Yes.
Antonetti Vola,
Yes.
Jamie Falco,
Yes.
Louis Figueroa,
Yes.
Lee Woo Hung,
Yes.
Wilbur Pan,
Yes.
Mary Ann Tanya.
Yes, the motion carries. All right, we are on to curriculum and instruction, items 1 through 10. Do we have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Jamie, then Wilbur. Discussion?
This is me, right? Yeah.
This is you. This is you, ma'am.
I'm waiting. All right. I have a concern here for a couple of these items. Mostly because, actually, I want to first start with, I like a positive first. So I appreciate that most of these trips are student sponsored, but we still have fees that come along with these overnight trips. 2 of the trips are taking place right here in New Brunswick, overnight, for multiple days. When you calculate all these overnight trips, I'm averaging it to 19 and change, $20,000 for a handful of trips. The district has to be consistent with what we're telling the community. If we're telling kindergarten students and first graders, second graders, third graders, fourth graders that we can't do district trips because the funding isn't there, but then we're giving $20,000 in stipends and hotel fees and dinner for extracurricular activity trips, I have a problem with that. So I wish that we had all the money, like Anna said before, to pay for everything. I would love it. I think it's amazing. I actually think it's impressive how far all of these clubs and teams are going. But if we're able to do school trips like this where students are sponsoring them, why can't we bring back the elementary school level trips? Because you wouldn't have to pay anything if the parents are paying for it because the teacher's already being paid for the day. There would be no stipend, no hotel fare, no food. And those trips, I'm talking about going to Rutgers Garden, to the Pumpkin Patch, to the State House. These are major memories, like we were saying earlier, that children bring. It's not always about school inside the classroom. There's learning opportunities outside the classroom. And on Monday night, we lose the chair of our Student Services Committee. We got feedback from a lot of the counselors that the elementary school students that are coming in are not the same as they used to be. They have different needs, different wants, different challenges. And one thing that stood out the most to me was the social part of them. You know, they're not as social as they used to be. And Miss Sultana is a mom to one of those kids, and they're COVID kids. So, you know, they're pregnant during COVID, and then the first 3 years, you can't leave your house. You have to be afraid to go places. And now these children, they're going to school, and now they're in the same four walls with those children, and they're not going anywhere. They're not experiencing life outside of school other than when they're with their families, which everyone's busy, honestly. So how much exposure can they get to Rutgers Garden or the Pumpkin Patch or State House? So what my problem here is not that I'm going to vote yes for this, obviously, because it's an important trip. But if we have to be consistent with the message. So if we're going to allow trips, it can't be cherry picking trips. It has to be we're doing it or we're not doing it. And that's how I feel about it for the following year.
Dr. Newman?
I appreciate your impassioned plea. I wasn't here last year, so I do not know. My understanding is that those trips had to do with elementary. These high school trips are often tied to the course of study. So it is part of their programming, and Dr. Bowley can, hop in here my understanding that it is, some of this I do know. The one in New Brunswick, there's a lot that happens in the evening with them after the full day. Is that the Model Congress?
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of coming together and debriefing on the day and social activities for the kids that go way into like 10 o'clock, I believe, at night. And for that reason is why they stay. And it's also, and then the other one, that has to do with the business.
The Model Congress is, the students are paying their hotel costs, and the transportation is funded through the Cybele grant.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah.
Right, no, I said, I
yeah.
appreciate
No,
the students are paying for it.
Yes. And
I think what you mean, what you're saying is true and valid, that we did cut the elementary trips altogether. I think that it was tied to maybe the transportation costs. I don't know if that was rolled into the parent fee for those trips, but it is certainly something that I guess we can
Yeah.
discuss.
No, I'm definitely looking into it.
Right.
As you know, I think I already said yes to a particular trip this year already.
I don't know, it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, I know, but it is a priority for me. I do believe that learning extends beyond the classroom, and the kids need that. I think that we just have to find a way to fund it, right? It's the elephant in the room. Something has to go. So that's something that we believe in strongly, that has to happen. And again, part of this process, so that we're intentional. And, I know we discussed earlier about how intentional it is. It is because we do not want to be callous with this.
Right.
It's easier to just cut. But I know that from past years here, what the outcry has been, and that is why we're pushing ourselves to make sure that so even though we're cutting for certain things, we're also uplifting and strengthening our programming and students' experience.
And I
So I
appreciate
can only
that.
say to you that the high school is the junior high school, those tied to the courses, but there is an argument to be made for the elementary trips, and I promise you, I'm gonna look into it and
And it
figure
might
out.
also be helpful, the way we saw the breakdowns tonight for the sports. They might have charged parents $12 for the trip, but maybe the trip actually cost way more than that. So,
It is transportation for sure.
Right.
So we'll look into that. That transportation was the impetus for that one. So
okay.
we'll, Joe is on it.
Poor Joe. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, I think it was more than just transportation. It was, if nurses are required to go on the field trips, even if they're in town, it's the issue of not being able to get contracted nurses or subs to cover when our nurse accompanies.
Then we can say that.
So that was a big thing. And then, not to bring this back up again, but the free and reduced kids, like, you're not passing that cost on to other families that are paying, and there's no funding mechanism. There used to be money in the student activity funds given by the PTAs, but all those funds have been depleted over time. So it was twofold with that.
I do have a question, and this brings it back to the point that Tim said earlier. When you're considering the free and reduced students for field trips, right? You said you can't put that cost onto the other families legally, or it's just not in good faith?
Legally, I don't.
Matt, can you confirm that?
Yeah,
Poor Matt.
So what she's saying is like, if, let's say the cost of a trip is $100, okay? And like, if there's 5 kids going on the trip, can you charge $120 to the 4 kids who aren't free and reduced?
To subsidize the kids that
Yeah.
aren't, no, you can't do that. You can't, we can't, sorry. We can't pass on,
He almost had a heart attack.
we can't pass on costs that the law mandates that we, provide for to other families. That basically is like a secret tax. We have to
Okay, so
charge
no,
them-
I know the answer, Matt, but I just wanted you to say it so people know. So so it wasn't just transportation, it was also having to cover the fees of students who are free and reduced.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Now you can vote.
Yeah, but I think this is a what? No, I'm not, excuse me.
Yes.
They're trying to take your
They
role
should.
tonight, you're trying to take mine.
Darnell missed out because of COVID, but he remembers it.
No, okay, so, so I think to Antoinette's point, the main thing is like, before we eliminate trips altogether, just ask the parents if they'd be willing to pay for them. My one thing is on item 10, this trip already happened. And I just want to make sure, no, it's okay, but I just want to make sure that, the feeling should not be that because the board is inclined to give our students everything they want.
Yeah, this happens occasionally, this is legally permitted, you're just authorizing it. These were your wrestlers who made it to the state finals, which is like an incredible honor. And unfortunately, you don't know, they win the regions,
Yeah.
and you didn't have a board meeting before the finals. So you guys are authorizing it, but you have done this in the past, and it's just because of the timing of it. The timing between the regional tournament and the finals is like two weeks, and you didn't have a board meeting between the two. Yeah, it's an NJSI sanctioned event.
I did have, actually, now that Mary mentions, I did have a question about this, because this trip specifically wasn't sponsored by the students. This was completely covered by the district, correct? And is that because there's just a fee for the sports and this isn't included, or?
Because it's a NJSIA event, we have to pay for the hotel rooms for the coaches, for the wrestlers that make it. I believe we had 5 or 6 this year, which is a high number for us. And then, the transportation costs. So yeah, there was no additional funding offset by parents for this.
Because you're not allowed to, or because, I just want to make it clear, would you have been able to have the parents pay for this trip?
Generally, the answer to that would be no,
Okay.
and it's because of the timing. Usually, so for example, with the hockey, they came, they petitioned, they said we want to do it, and the board was agreeable to do that, and there was a lot of planning. This literally happens within like a 2-week period, and the reality is that they're part of your sports team, and the parents have already paid an activity fee for them to participate in wrestling. And you're fortunate that you had 5 star athletes that got that far. It's no different than if, your girls tennis goes to the state finals, there's an additional cost because the state finals aren't in East Brunswick. They always pick places that are far away. And the reason that the wrestling, people always say, well, why don't they pick another location? The reason they pick Atlantic City is because the convention hall is big enough because they have to have multiple mats. there's like 8 or 10 matches going on all the time.
Okay.
And there's very few, the rack, Rutgers is not big enough to handle this.
Thank you.
I just wanted to be clear, my proposed plan was not to front load costs onto individuals who can cover it. Mine was to tap into the collective goodwill of the community and invite people to help support those in need,
No, we know.
which is apparently illegal.
Tim, we know and appreciate your philanthropy
It was
always.
still a good idea, Tim. It was still a good idea.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this one is a voice vote? Yeah, so all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. All right, human resources, items 1 and 2, do we have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Wilbur, Jamie. Discussion? No? Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Anna Braun,
yes.
Timothy Cummings.
Yes.
Antonetti Vola,
Yes.
Jamie Falco,
Yes.
Louis Figueroa,
Yes.
Lee Woo Hung,
Yes.
Wilbur Pan.
Yes.
Mary Ann Tanyos.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, student services, items 1 through 6.
Move.
Second.
Jamie Wilbur. Discussion? Anybody? Okay, this is a roll call vote as well.
Anna Braun,
Yes.
Timothy Cummings.
Yes.
Antonetti Vola,
Yes.
Jamie Falco,
Yes.
Louis Figueroa,
Yes.
Lee Woo Hung,
Yes.
Wilbur Pan,
Yes.
Mary Ann Tanyos.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, we are on to committee reports, information items, and for the good of the cause for the board. I guess we will start, what slide did we start on last time? We
Start with Anna?
Start with Anna? Okay, we'll start with Anna.
I wanted to commend the Churchill Percussion Ensemble, who was chosen to play at the New Jersey Music Educators Conference back in February. And I was fortunate enough to be there, and the kids did such a great job. And normally they don't accept 7th graders. It's usually high school groups and college groups. So to see our kids playing there was amazing. And of course, the directors were Chris Bouvier and Joshua Becker. And another event, March the 8th, an afternoon of strings, was a recital to benefit the EBEA Philanthropic Fund, which provides a scholarship to a high school senior going into education. And we had 4 of our staff members who were part of this recital, and they were Christopher Beckett, Elementary Orchestra, Alex Nelson, Hughes Orchestra, Susan Muse, Churchill Orchestra, and Arvind Gopal, East Brunswick High School Orchestra. And it was amazing, because this is not their day job, is to play a professional concert, right? That the fact that they could play, perform on their instruments to such a high level. I was sitting there thinking, I can't believe this is East Brunswick. I can't believe I'm sitting in my hometown hearing teachers performing at this caliber, and that I'm not sitting in New York City. So anyway,
That's
congratulations to them.
Thanks, Anna.
That's super impressive, Anna.
Yeah.
I was at the Parks and Rec committee meeting last night in the ice arena. Those of you who haven't been there, Sunday is the grand opening. It's just a very impressive building. Most people, I think, have probably seen it.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable. So just kudos to the town on that. There's a lot going on. These people have a lot going on. I was taking notes, and then my hands started to get a little tired. So I would check the website, but there's a community yard sale on April 11th. There is on March 28th. There's a clothing drive at the youth center. I mean, just a lot of community-driven activity. So really do look at that as a resource. Those of you who use the summer camp, as my wife and I do with our kids over the summer, that registration is now open, so people can register for that. So a great group of people doing a lot of incredible work in the town, and really encourage people to check it out.
Thanks, Tim. Well, so Wilbur has graciously offered that we keep him second to last.
Okay, thank you. 2 things. So as for the ice arena, so they will have grand open this weekend, but please watch out. Mayor Cohen's Charity Fund, we are planning a big event there. It's for free. So check out the website. So last night we tried to make final decision, but we couldn't. So watch out. There will be a very big event. It's free for East Brunswick residents. And second, last weekend, my family went to Central Jersey Educators Music Educators Association's event, the string and chamber orchestra there. So that happened in Monroe High School. My family there, my boy says, wow, this high school is so beautiful. So I said, well, when they plan for it, when they open the door, it's already small capacity. There are too many students. So my boy said, the board should do a better job. And additionally, the children, many East Brunswick students, 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders, chosen to play there. They perform so good. I really enjoyed it. It's really professional level. I should give our teachers a lot of credit. The students under the teachers' guidance, they put so much time to practice. I'm really proud of them and proud of my son. My son was there. So, thank you.
Thanks, Leo. Jamie?
I'd like to start off thanking the Frost community. We're a Frost family. On the 26th was Frost Multicultural Night. And it was such a pleasant experience to be with my neighbors and then look up and see a few board members. And then look up and see our superintendent. And my daughter was just awestruck by Dr. Mammon. Like, she couldn't get over it. She's like, who is this glamorous woman? She goes, Mom, that's our superintendent? Like, she was like just floored by her, and just having you there really meant a lot to me as a mom. So thank you for that. I also want to thank the Islamic Center of East Brunswick for hosting an interfaith iftar dinner on March 7th. Ramadan is a really special time for the month of Islam, or I'm sorry, for the Islam community. Muslim neighbors do not drink or eat anything at all, not even water, from sunup to sundown. When they break fast, it's a kind of like a time for gratitude and community. The iftar dinner was beautiful. It was really lovely to see so many people from different faiths come and just share camaraderie and eat together. So I was really grateful to be part of that. Tomorrow is Eid, so warm wishes to all of our neighbors who celebrate. We had Holly earlier this month. It's still Lent for Christian Catholics who celebrate. And I did just want to put on everyone's radar that the Human Relations Council Unity Walk will be on May 11th of this year at the Municipal Center. We would love to see everyone come and support our neighbors. The Human Relations Council is made up of 15 community members from all different walks of life in our town. We are committed to inspiring camaraderie and community wherever we can, not just encouraging tolerance, but true embracing of our cultural differences and appreciation for why a community like East Brunswick is so special. So if you could please pencil that in, we'd love to see you there. And thank you to this board. I know everyone has said that, everyone's working hard up here. There's a lot of people who are not sitting on this board who also work hard. I want to thank everybody here and not here who are working on this budget.
Thanks, Jamie. Blair?
Thank you. Okay, this past Monday, March 16th, we had our Student Services Committee meeting. It was good to see everyone again. We talked about our GLOW, or what's working in the departments, the GROW, what we still need to work on, and some of the goals. Danielle Blaylock and many of her team members were there, Heather Mills with school counseling, and of course our own Louise Sultana Laraca, who's here with special education. And they did a very nice job of letting us know where we're at. There is work to be done, and I'm confident that we will get there. I want to thank Dr. Mammon and the administration who were there, Karen Keegan for her work with student services, our staff who attended, the parents who attended, and of course our board committee members who were there. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lynn. Antoinette?
now you guys get to hear the exciting stuff happening in Trenton. Which, of all the things you think they'd be working on, this is a bill that they're working on, which I'm not happy about it. But it passed the assembly, so the assembly, not the assembly, I'm sorry, the assembly committee. It was the Assembly Labor Committee. Oh boy, it's been a long day. They met on Monday and they approved this bill, which means it's now moved on to the next phase. The bill number is A1161. This bill is not just for schools, but it would affect schools. It's for all businesses. When you post an available position on your website or any public forum, they want to fine you between $300 and $600 for every single day that post doesn't come down once that position is filled. Obviously, everyone, this is what they're working on, guys. This is what they're working on. So obviously, there was a lot of pushback, especially from the schools, because we have so many budget constraints as it is. But also, there was pushback on it because this isn't a problem that exists. I have never seen anybody complain about this at any business. Because if you see a position online and then you call up and you say the position's been filled, usually somebody just, okay, I forgot, this slipped my mind. I can't imagine Karen or anybody else who runs our website is gonna forget to take down a posting. But if we have a 4-day weekend, that would be ridiculous to charge school districts that. So obviously, I don't even know how it did. It passed the committee. It's on to the next phase. Hopefully they amend it at least to take the schools out of it. This is actually gonna hurt small businesses, but I have to always worry about schools. Then there was another bill, which I like this bill. The sponsor of this bill is Troy Singleton, and they're appropriating $15 million. So this was also met in the Senate Environment and Energy Committee. The bill number is 71815, and it would establish a solar energy grant program within the Board of the Public Utilities to provide grants for schools to get solar panels. So hopefully that goes through. Yeah, that's a good one. And then this one is actually one that I'm very, very passionate about. It's got bipartisan support. Hopefully it goes all the way. But it wouldn't even start until, until August of 2028. So what they want to do is they want to take 4 substances that are found in foods, chemically created foods, and they want to make them illegal. So brominated vegetable oil, potassium bromate, propylbaron, I don't even know what that is, and red dye 3. And no, please don't do that. I actually want to take these out of schools right now, but that's a different conversation. There's so much data and science that supports removing these food dyes from students, period, but especially students who suffer from hypertension or hyperactivity. ADHD, but even students could be sensitive to those food dyes. So there's, on both sides, bipartisan support. The primary sponsor is Shama Hader and Valina Reynolds-Jackson, and she's actually the chair of the Education Committee, so hopefully
We met her last time we were in Trenton.
We met her last year. She's very nice. And again, that wouldn't happen until 2028, but if we can make that happen here sooner, Joe, that would be great. You could just let Aramac know we don't need red slushies in the lunchroom. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Question, Antoinette. Did they mention anything about the vision requirement bill that's coming up? They're looking to create vision exam mandates for kindergarten entry.
So these are 3 separate committees, and those are the only bills that I saw that was related to education.
Okay.
If it's coming up, you would probably see that in the health committee, I would assume.
It's actually it was introduced through education. Teresa Ruiz is what I read, but I could be wrong.
It hasn't been another meeting since the last meeting we had, so if it was discussed at that one, I can look up and see, but I was focusing more on the budget stuff.
I just, for literacy, that was one that, when I saw that was introduced earlier this year, it kind of stuck with me, so that's why I asked, because you're so good, you really have a pulse of what bills are pertinent.
I didn't see it.
No, all good, thank you.
But they haven't had an education committee meeting since the one I was there the day after,
January.
in January, so maybe it might be coming up.
Thanks, Antoinette. Wilbur, are you doing Lori's, or do you want me?
Yeah, I can do
You're
that.
going to do it? Okay.
I can do Lori's.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, Lori Herrick isn't here tonight. She had a conflict, but she did have a report regarding the curriculum committee. Should I have the first 2? Because we didn't talk about them. Yeah. So basically, I'll just hit on the most salient point here. So we had a presentation on the literacy pilot, including background data and overview of CKLA. There was a lot of discussion focused on the program strengths and challenges, the implementation, data collection, cost, professional development, and how success will be measured. Additional discussion is needed, and the curriculum committee will reconvene in April. So that's it. In terms of other things, a lot of this has been mentioned, but I went to them as well. So I went to Central twice, once for International Night, which was awesome, and once for Read Across America, also awesome. There's nothing like grabbing a book at random and then reading it in front of kids that you've never seen before. So that was cool. And also Multicultural Night at Frost was very cool too. The one thing I want to point out is that this event was so big that in the big multipurpose room, there were like all the countries. And then they put China and India in two other rooms because there wasn't enough room. So I'm waiting for them to hang a sign in the lobby that says Pacific Ocean, because that will make this the most geographically accurate international night out of all the schools. So just a thought. I had the pleasure of attending the Fast Break Buddy Ball All-Star Game. It's a wonderful event, as it is every year. Really good to see the community come out for that. I was able to drop in on Dr. Mammon's last meet and greet with the high school students. My only comment is I don't know why the high school students really didn't want to meet with her, but arranging for 2 snowstorms to put it off is is a little bit over the top. The Willy Wonka performance of Willy Wonka by the Hughes Drama Club was really outstanding. Ms. Colicchio should be really commended for putting that production together. And my biggest takeaway from that, besides it being a wonderful production, is that my kids went through drama club throughout all the years, and I do not remember their production at Hughes being anywhere near as good as this one. So she's really kicked the program up by a lot. Legally Blonde Junior is coming up at the end of the month at Churchill. That ought to be awesome. And the last thing I just want to note is much more on a personal level. So Leslie Gatner was one of our PE teachers. She spent 38 years in the district, and she also happens to be my backdoor neighbor. She was one of the first people we met when we moved to East Brunswick, and we were just sort of like puttering around our house and getting used to the house, and all of a sudden I hear this voice over the fence, hello, welcome to the neighborhood, and she's been a dear friend, to us and all that time. Unfortunately, she passed away recently, and I just wanted to mention her because, again, she spent her entire careers teaching PE in our schools, and if she's an example of how good our teachers are, then we're actually in really good shape in terms of what we're doing for the students. And that's that. Thanks.
Thank you, Wilbur. Okay. So again, thank you to the board. Thank you to those parents who are part of those committees, because I know that takes a lot away from your time as well. I won't reiterate everything because I was at a lot of the same events, but I do want to give a shout out for the Frost International Night. Mr. Chris Finnegan was there, and he did a performance with his sons playing Irish music, and my daughter said, like, wow, I didn't realize that music also had a language, and I know you'd appreciate that. I never thought of it that way, that music has a language, it's an international thing, but he's super talented, and I didn't know this, but he told me he does all these parades and things for St. Patrick's Day, so that was really nice to see how talented our staff are. The other person I want to give a shout out to is Dr. Ed Bashore. Those snow days that we had when everybody was like bunkered down. Yeah, he is cool. So he has a social media page, and I think he intended this just for high school students. He did a snowman contest. Well, this quickly picked up across the district, and all the kids wanted to be a part of it, not just the high school students. So he actually entertained this and like shared their stuff on Instagram, and it was really nice. I think they knew that they were entering it and they weren't gonna win the lunch that he was providing, but they were happy to just be a part of it. And then when they saw their pictures on social media, they were like, "Oh my gosh, he's including us." So that was really great, and I think educators like that are what make our district stand out because they go above and beyond. I mean, he could have just been sitting at home enjoying his snow day as well. So I really do appreciate that. Just a reminder that the EBEF dinner is, Jack made sure that I say this. The EBEF dinner is April 29th at the Pines Manor. It's not too late to get your tickets. They're available online. And that, I think, is all I have. So, yeah. Thank you, everybody. All right. Motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
Wilbur and Jamie. All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Have a good evening, everyone.